Today on Tease Time, we're going to do an install of a boost bolt onto a 6.7 Cummins. So that is today. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Tease Time. I'm TJ. Hope life is treating you well. Today we're going to do our Cummins 6.7 liter boost bolt install. The boost bolt I have is right here. It's supplied from GlowShift. These are instructions. The most important part of the instructions are a torque spec of 120 inch-pounds. You torque this to once you remove the bolt on the intake horn. So some of the other stuff I have, some Teflon tape right here. You're going to put that around the threads on both my adapter here. This has also been sourced from GlowShift. Everything will be in the description below if you need more information. And if you missed the video where I did the wiring of the gauge, so all the gauges are wired in already, just click on the link up top to see how I wired everything to get your power, your ground, your dimming function from the headlight power source. So that was on that video also. So just click the link and we're going to get into the install. So we have our boost bolt, of course, adapter to do our conversion from our silicone hose here to run it all the way over to our map sensor. So this is a silicone hose, this is extra. And then of course the torque wrench, some adapters here. So I have this adapted all the way going from a 1/4 inch to 3/8 to a 1/2 inch with a bunch of adapters like so. Just so I can have this deep socket, because I'm going to assemble all of this stuff, and then I'm going to use this to like torque everything down. Hopefully there's enough space for this to fit. We will see. So for starters, let me just assemble everything right now. We get all this assembled and I'll go show you where the bolt location is. Oh, and make sure before you assemble all this to make sure it's clean, that it doesn't have any like machining metal or anything in there that's going to interfere or block the vacuum line going to your MAP 4 sensor. Both of these, if you have compressed air, blow them out and just make sure that they're clean. Teflon tape is directional. It depends on like if you have like a pipe thread where it's reversed or righty tighty, lefty loosey. You just want to make sure when you put your Teflon tape on, it's kind of in the direction of when you're going to thread it in. So we're going to go right. So you want it to kind of just wrap it going clockwise on the thread if you're tightening this in. So that way it doesn't like unwind the Teflon tape. So we have that, and then you just want to make sure that you don't have it covering that it's going to get into this. You want to make sure it's a little higher on the threads, but it still makes contact so it seals. So you don't have any of this material on your intake or in your vacuum lines. So then and don't go crazy tightening this brass. You can snap that if you go too crazy. It just needs to be snugged. Just go around with the Teflon tape, probably like have 2 layers. That's what I usually do, is good enough. You don't want to struggle getting that in, but you still want it to be snug enough so it doesn't leak. And we're going to do the same on this end, but I want to get the bolt that's on the intake horn out first so I can see how deep that bolt is, so I can see if I need to put the Teflon tape like here or down here. I just don't want it to go deeper than I have to, because I don't want the risk of the Teflon tape going into the intake or even getting like sucked up and blocking this. So let's get that out now. We're gonna need, I believe, a 10mm, a bunch of extensions, little 1/4 inch. And it's kind of hard to see like where the bolt is. Like in the install when I did the running of the cables and the wires to the sensor locations, it's kind of hard to see. Let's see. see, but the bolt is right there in that little corner back there, so I just have to try to see I could get this back there and get it out. And that was the location for this bolt. And what I was saying about the Teflon tape to go on this, I just wanted to see how like deep the threads actually were screwed in, and it was about like right there's where it was biting onto. Oh, and I was using the magnet to get this out. This is also steel, so it's magnetized. But when I put this in, I'm probably gonna, a trick you could use is take plastic and put it on this. So that when you put this in here, it holds onto it so it doesn't slide. And we could get that in there that way. But let's figure out how deep this threads into the intake. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to start and end my tape like right there above that line. Right in there should be a safe spot. And like I was saying, clockwise. Let's see. And that should be good right there. Cool. So let's get this in. Remember, 120 inch-pounds. I already have this set. Take our extensions. Oh, and they're using a 10 millimeter to get the factory bolt out. And I used 11 millimeter around this brass fitting here, the adapter piece. And then this, the actual boost bolt itself, is a 17 millimeter. And then I have a bunch of adapters. It goes for the 1/4 inch. Goes 1/4 inch to 3/8 right there. Into the 3/8 to the 1/2, because my 1/2 inch 17 millimeter, that's what I have for a deep. I don't have that in a 1/4 inch. If I had it in a 1/4 inch, I would just use that. So we have that for adapters. We're going to use extensions. And then, and also make sure like your tools and stuff are clean, like there's not going to like drop stuff like into this and block this little hole. The pinholes aren't the biggest. So do that. Let's take some plastic. All right, and I remove the excess. And if you take your bag, you do like so. And like so, this will hold it in so gravity doesn't take over. You could get it in there, thread it in, and once this gets started, just pull that out and take the bag out, and then you just torque it down. So we're going to take our torque wrench, 120 inch-pounds, extension, the plastic bag to hold that in so it doesn't fall out. Back to the drawing board. Socket's too wide. Alright, we're going to try that same method, but I'm going to grab it onto the brass. Do not torque this down by the brass. I'm just using this to try to get into place and get a couple threads going before I could try to get the 17 down there. It's just it's too fat, so it's not going to fit down there, and it's tight. So I'm going to just do the bag method like we were doing. Like so. Let's try this. I was using a 17 millimeter and 11/16. I couldn't get the socket, the 17 deep, to go down in there. It was just too tight. So I just had to do it like a couple millimeters at a time till it's tight. And then just good and tight. It's the same thing that applies to that brass fitting. You can snap that boost bolt, so don't go crazy on it. Get it on there, get it snug, and give it your estimated 120 inch-pounds. So I'm pleased where it's at right now. And then next, the hard part, getting that vacuum line on that nipple. So this is what we have over here. That's our map sensor for our boost. I already applied that little nipple just to keep the dirt off it until like I got to this install. So I'm going to try to snake this down in there like so, in the little crevice, and hopefully it shouldn't be a pain. And then like I might slip like a zip tie like around that and then slide it down, then pull it to tighten it so that way it doesn't come off. But let's get some light. that's all in. It's all set. The nipple was a little bit of a problem just getting the silicone holes on. But your setup might be a little different depending on your intake horn. You might have more space where you could get your 17 millimeter to fit over the whole thing. You could actually use the torque wrench to torque it to 120 inch-pounds. But that wasn't my case. I had to use a wrench and just do it like a millimeter, 2 millimeters at a time, just to get it tight, get it snug. Don't over torque the copper nipple, or actually like the boost bolt itself, because both of those could shear off and that would just be a pain. So I have it torqued down. What I was doing with the Dawn, I was just gonna make a little soap solution, so that way I was turning on and check for leaks. You just squirt your soapy water on there just to check for leaks. But that's how we have it routed right here. It's just zip tie everything up out of the way. This is just a filter to catch any soot or anything, so it doesn't mess up the map sensor. But I have everything just zip tied. Don't go crazy with the zip ties, because you can pinch that and then it won't work. It won't function because they're blocking the airflow. So we did that. So right now I'm just going to start it up, and then we're going to check for our leaks real quick, and yeah, we'll be finished. And then the gauge that we just did is our boost gauge right there. Just hook that one up. The last video I did the install with the wiring and install of the rail pressure. So that was the last gauge we did. So now we're going to do our boost right now. This is with the lights on. It dims a little bit. Actually, see that? So this is in the dark. Ignore that clicking noise. That's my air conditioner, mixed vent, whatever. It's disconnected, so it's a little annoying. But when you turn your lights on, that's what we have. It dims out. And that's for daytime, nighttime, dims. And then you just have like a little bit. That's normal gauge function on the diesel. Right now, let's go check for our leaks. So we have the exhaust going in here. But I just pushed a little hole on the top of the bottle, so it works. And it's just a soapy solution. Then like, it was real tight. I had to pull back the camera because I couldn't get my tweezers in there to get the little clamp. Go around also. Looks good, no leaks. If you had leaks, it will show little bubbles. That's why you use the soapy solution. It'll show little bubbles, and then you'll know that's where your leak is. So there's no leaks, so that's good. I really just don't like starting the truck and just shutting it off without letting it run. But for the tools that we need, or that we use today, you would actually probably use a torque wrench depending on your spacing. If you would get the 17 millimeter to fit over the boost bolt itself, that way you could torque it to 120 inch-pounds. Do not torque by the copper nipple. That will break before the actual boost bolt will. So you want to torque the actual boost bolt itself if you have the space. If you don't, just use the 17 millimeter and 11/16 wrench right here, and the offset was just enough where I could do like a millimeter or two at a time, just switching between the wrenches, because the offset of like the grooves was just enough for me to get it snug and get it tight, and there wasn't any leaks. So we didn't break anything. It's a plus. And then on the bottom, on the boost bolt, on the vacuum line, I do have like one of those metal clamps. So you saw me struggling. I was just using like the needle nose pliers. This was the lifesaver, the little guy, just to kind of get it far enough down where I could just use various needle nose pliers to get that on there and get that secure. So there was that. Teflon tape, of course. The magnet I was using just to kind of get the original bolt out. I used this just to grab it, just to pull it out. And then also just to know, just make sure you don't go too crazy with your Teflon tape, and you want to make sure that it doesn't go like in the intake itself, or it's going to block the nipple. So you want to use just enough. Don't go crazy. Make sure it's not covering like the bottom of the bolt itself right there. Like if it's at the bottom, you don't want that, because it can get in your intake and just block stuff up. But that was the gist of it. A 10 millimeter is the size of the original, is a 10 millimeter. But that's it. It's pretty simple if you have space. So if you have space, you're good to go. It shouldn't be an issue. But that is it. So bada boom, bada bang. It's finished. It's done. It's in. It's all set. I'm pleased with that. And we're gonna just keep doing like videos as I do the install of the gauges themselves. So it'll just be like a video per gauge. We just did the last one. We did rail pressure. This one was just the boost gauge. So we still have our exhaust temperature. We have our oil and oil temperatures in one, transmission temperature, and fuel pressure. So we still have that for the fuel pressure for the lift pump itself. So we still have that stuff to come. But right now, we're finished. Until the next one, I see you. Stay motivated. Build something. Oh yeah, and there's t-shirts available on the website, teestime.com. Check that out after you like and subscribe this video. Go check out the website. Peace, TJ.